Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Kris Sims, BC Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Welcome back to the show, Kris.
Thank you so much.
Kris, the opposition parties say they will not support the Liberal minority government's move to attach fines and prison time to people who blatantly cheat on the assistance program, CERB, to help people get through the COVID-19 crisis. What does that say about the opposition parties?
It doesn't say very good things, frankly. They should be calling for as much accountability and transparency in Parliament and how we hand out our financial aid as possible. We were calling for the federal government to act quickly with its funding and with its aid in the COVID-19 pandemic and the shutdown, because you can't let perfect get in the way of good. So we were happy that they moved quickly, and we know people needed help. The issue is if they have absolutely no consequences whatsoever for people who are obviously and deliberately cheating the system, that's wrong. That's fraud. They're taking money from taxpayers. If somebody is getting this money and they don't qualify for it and they don't need it and they know it and it's deliberate, they're taking that money from their neighbors. They're taking that money from the local business down the street that can't even open its doors. And so that's really wrong. And so we're glad that the federal government is being very clear with saying, don't you cheat the system. Now, we do want to caution, we hope they're reasonable. We don't want to see Revenue Canada going after, say, some wait staff that made a mistake, and they technically, based on some paperwork, might not have qualified at that certain date. You know, we really hope that they don't go after hammer and tong against those folks. We hope they go after people who are obviously deliberately defrauding the system. So we're really hoping for some common sense, mixed in with a bit of compassion. But yeah, if somebody's ripping off the system, they need to be held accountable. So this is a good thing that they're saying so, and it's disappointing to hear from the opposition saying that they don't back this up.
Well, I'm sure they might be scared that there might be scenarios just like you said. But proof that Canadians can be honest, the Canadian Revenue Agency says 190,000 people have returned their CERB payments. Why do you think those people would have done that?
There could be a couple of different reasons. I know I was hearing from people, and I think we need to remember how, frankly, startling and frightening all of this was a couple of months ago. People were suddenly thrown out of work, their businesses were suddenly shut down, and this health scare is a real thing. So a lot of people were very worried about it, and they still are. So I think they might have applied for it as an insurance policy of a just in case, heck, I need to be able to make my mortgage payment or afford groceries or something like that. You know, that's often what that was there for. And then, let's hope, maybe that didn't come to fruition. Maybe they were able to keep their business open, or they were able to stay working somehow, or earn their own money during this crisis somehow, and they didn't need it. And then for them to pay it back right away before, even the close of the fiscal year, that's good. That's really good. So let's hope that meant that they applied for it, got it, when they thought they really needed it. And now it turns out they don't really need it. And frankly, they don't want to have to pay taxes on it, because I will point out CERB is taxable. That is not tax-free money. It's different from the child benefit payments. And so they did the right thing. In some, hopefully, limited cases, maybe some folks knew they weren't applying for it in the right way, knew they didn't qualify for it, got it anyway, and then thought better of it. I hope those folks are in the minority. I hope that in most cases it turns out they didn't need it, and they just earnestly repaid it ahead of time, which is nice.
Well, I could see somebody being let go one day and their boss calls them 2 days later and says, no, we still need you. Come on back.
Yes, exactly. And anecdotally speaking, I heard from quite a few people in that situation. Everything from skilled tradespeople to wait staff who, they were suddenly told, go home. And those are bad nights. I know exactly how that feels. I've been in that situation before. It's terrible. And so they probably quickly applied for and got the CERB, which was very quick, and we're glad to see it was quite simple online. And then, thankfully, they probably, you're right, they got that phone call from their boss saying, hey, great news, we can still do takeout. Great news, we can still do delivery. Great news, I need you to be the driver instead. That's good. And that also means that they were able to stay with that employer. So let's hope that that is the vast bulk of the folks who did pay that back already.
Or perhaps install the equipment needed to reopen.
Exactly. All that plexiglass.
Yeah.
All those markers. In some cases, they have big lineups outside where they have to be kind of, corralled on their way in. And in other cases, their job just shifted. Like I said, it could go from being, wait staff to being a delivery person. I heard directly from people who were in that situation. And then also, if some folks weren't going into work, that meant that those who were still able suddenly had more work to do. So in the case of, say, a tradesperson where they were doing construction or renovation, if some of the folks couldn't come to work because of underlying health conditions or what have you, suddenly your job is much bigger. You have more work in front of you. And so I know some people who are actually working more now because of that. There could be many different reasons why they initially got it, and I'm glad it was there for them, but it's a good thing that they paid it back now so that is all tidied up and they don't need to worry about it come tax time.
Plus, the criminal code provisions for fraud still stand. And the penalties there could be, I think, a whole lot more than a fine or 6 months in jail. You could be looking at 6 years.
Yes, it's a very serious crime. And we want to stress with folks, if you don't qualify for this, and you don't try this. They will come and get you. They're very clear in their language on their website. If you don't need this and don't qualify for it, don't take it. It's just not worth it. It's not there for you. We need to be compassionate and reasonable, and like I said, my one lingering fear is that this will accidentally catch people who, through no intention or no fault of their own, by some technicality, Revenue Canada decides that they weren't eligible. I really hope they don't go after those service workers like that who just made an honest mistake or no mistake at all. We hope that they go after the big ones, people who are obviously and deliberately taking this money when they know they darn well shouldn't be. So there's a very good thing here where they're stepping up their enforcement, but there is a little light of caution too we hope that they're very reasonable when they start applying this level of enforcement too.
We'll have more with Kris Sims right after this.
Aben Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Aben's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at abenresources.com.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Kris Sims. Kris, the Taxpayers Federation, always good on pointing out areas where the government has blown a lot of money. There's a website, Blacklocks, you told us about off air, where they have tracked down a $1.8 billion waste. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, and they do great work. It's called the Blacklocks Reporter. You can go to their website, blacklocks.ca, so full credit to them. They're the ones that found this. So remember back when this pandemic first hit and we were seeing some footage coming out of committees where we were hearing from ministers and bureaucrats, And we were asking them questions like, where are all of our masks? Where are all of our gloves? Where's all the personal protective equipment? Because we have departments, including the Public Health Agency of Canada, whose job it is to have a stockpile of emergency equipment, stuff like masks, face shields, gloves, you name it. This is not our first rodeo with COVID-19. We had a dress rehearsal with SARS, and frankly, most epidemiologists that work for the federal government know that pandemics and epidemics happen and that infectious diseases can spread. And so it is exactly their job to keep a stockpile of this stuff. So, fast forward, we had some committee meetings back in April and a little bit in May. Turns out, we gave away tons of our stockpile. We landfilled millions of masks, and were caught with our pants down when COVID-19 hit us, for lack of a better term. So this means that we were tens of thousands of units short. We didn't have the goggles. We didn't have the face masks. We didn't have the shields. And all of a sudden, we need to be scrambling for this stuff like everybody else and ordering it, usually from China, but now at a premium price. And here's the rub. Usually, one of those basic paper N95 masks that you see on TV all the time now costs less than $1. Now, they're up to $6 a piece. So they're at a huge premium price. And now there's a document that is on the website of the Government of Canada. It's called Supplementary Estimates. It sounds super boring, but it's really important, because that's a government document that breaks down what they're spending money on. Turns out, because we're now scrambling, pants down, $6 a mask, we're spending $1.8 billion because we didn't have our stockpile ready.
Wasn't the official in charge given a bonus, even though she didn't know where our emergency masks were?
She could very well get one this year, and that's something we're keeping a very, very close eye on. So the person that was in charge of this, she actually presented to the committee. Her name is Sally Thornton. She is the vice president in charge of the Public Health Agency. And right in this committee meeting, you hear her say, I'm in charge of the stockpile. And then the MPs ask her, okay, well, what happened to it? Where is it? What's our basic minimum? So you'd think if you're in charge of the stockpile, you'd know what your baseline minimum is. Like, how few masks do we need to function in Canada? No idea. Couldn't tell you. She couldn't even tell from her notes. And I need to stress, this wasn't some person that was suddenly grabbed off the streets with a live camera in their face. This is somebody who is paid around $230,000 a year, as far as we can tell, based on what level that would be. And, as you say, is eligible for a 25 or 26% performance bonus. So if you do that math, that's around $51,000. This is somebody who, as an official role, would know they're going to present to committee. They literally know the agenda. They can expect what kind of questions they're going to be getting, and they know that it's going to be recorded. But this same person, who's in charge of our stockpile, didn't know even how much we were supposed to have. And we didn't have it. And this one ball drop, I need to stress this one mistake, $1.8 billion. If you break that down, if you took the entire populations, so man, woman, and child, so it's not accurate because children don't pay income tax, but man, woman, and child populations of Kelowna and Moose Jaw combined, that's how much this costs in income tax.
We'll have more with Kris Sims right after this.
Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Kris Sims. Kris, another example of federal government waste a Hollywood party, 10 grand spent on a TV show a lot of people didn't watch.
Exactly. And so this was something that we at the Taxpayers Federation dug up. We have this strange thing that we do. We dig up access to information requests here in British Columbia. They're called Freedom of Informations, or FOIs. And that's where we dig through government documents to find out what they're spending. So many of your listeners will remember when Prime Minister Justin Trudeau went to India, that taxpayers paid thousands of dollars to get a Canadian chef to fly to India to make Indian food while the Prime Minister was in India. That money came out of a pot of money called the Mission Cultural Fund. It is shared between what's now called Global Affairs, it's really Foreign Affairs, and then sometimes Canadian Heritage. It's basically a big pool of money that they way overspend by millions of dollars a year, that's used to throw around cash outside of Canada's borders. So the latest one that we found is, you're right, $10,000 almost spent to throw one party in Hollywood to promote a TV show that few people have ever heard about. It's a Canadian TV show. It was first produced by Global, and it's called Mary Kills People. Apparently, I haven't seen it, but apparently it's about a nurse who then moonlights as someone who provides euthanasia services. That's the title. So Global produced it, and then Lifetime, the American network, picked it up. But it was canceled before the third season ever aired. So not that successful of a TV series. But here's the catch. We paid for it. So Canadian taxpayers paid close to $10,000 when then Heritage Minister Melanie Joly flew down to Los Angeles, and they threw this big schmancy party. From what we can tell from the pictures, less than 100 people were there, but it's in the backyard of our embassy there. We'd really like to know what kind of food was on the menu. I'm imagining it's probably cheese, whose name I can't pronounce, and very fancy wine. The point is if people want to support a TV show, that's great. They should watch it. They should pay for it with their advertising eyeballs and dollars. Or if they really want to, they could start a GoFundMe campaign for it. There's no reason why average taxpayers should be footing bills for Hollywood parties. They throw parties there all the time. They don't need Canadian taxpayer dollars to do it. And we highlighted this on our website. You can check out our documents there.
Cop cams. So many people now are demanding them because of the controversies about racism and policing. And other people just claim that they were abused and mishandled by the police. I know police unions and municipal governments say they can't afford it. But I recall the case of Charlotte, North Carolina, where the city was spending over $10 million a year defending cops accused of wrongdoing. They equipped half those officers with cop cams. They saved so much money in legal claims that they equipped all of their officers because they saved so much money. Is that a good argument for cities to equip their officers, not just on moral grounds, but financial grounds?
Whenever this stuff comes up, we always try to take it back to average people and transparency. So if I look at, for example, police budgets, first responder budgets, things like that, I always go back and I check the surveys of what that city says. And almost all the time, when I read what do the citizens of Vancouver think money should be spent on, what do the citizens of Victoria think money should be spent on, the top three are always police. So they'll say, like, emergency services, keep my streets safe. Then they'll say, garbage pickup, keep my streets clean. And then they'll say, repair, keep them fixed. So fill those potholes, pick up my garbage and recycling, and keep me safe. That's usually the top three things that taxpayers and people really care about when it comes to their local governance. And so I will stress that that seems to be what people want. They support paying for police. Now, one of our main reasons for existing at the Canadian Taxpayers Federation is accountability, transparency. And we're always in favor of having a royal commission or having an auditor look at something and always cracking it open and examining, including things like money laundering. We're glad that there's a commission looking into this. The same sort of logic should be applied here. Open, transparent governance, same sort of thing applies here, especially if people want it. We think it's important for governors in some cases or mayors, things like that. Take it to the people and ask them. And if the people who pay the taxes and pay the bills and who are being policed and are being thankfully protected want them, they need to listen to that.
I interviewed the inventor of the cop cam, and he said during the time since he invented it, about 98% of the claims of abuse by police, the officers were vindicated by the video. 1% of the time you couldn't tell if anybody was at fault. 1% of the time the police officer was at fault. Now we have police unions saying they don't want cop cams. Are they protecting that 1% who these cameras appear to show weren't doing the right thing?
That's a good question. So taking off my Taxpayers Federation hat for a second and putting on my old one, I was a journalist for most of my adult life, and most of the time I was covering court. And so by doing that, I came into contact with plenty of police officers and lawmakers. The vast majority of them, when I would speak with them casually and anecdotally, supported stuff like this, supported cameras. Because in their mind, they were working very hard and always on the up and up. In fact, I can't recall one conversation with one police officer who said, no, it interferes with my privacy, or I don't want them to see what I'm doing. Pretty much to a person that I can recall have said, yeah, go ahead. Most of the time you'll be bored, but the rest of the time it'll just show that I'm doing my job. And so I've been also getting a couple of notes from people saying, this applies to union logic. Unions should be, frankly, helping and supporting the people who do a good job. They shouldn't be trying to cover up, in the very rare cases, of people who do a bad job. And law enforcement should be no different.
On the privacy concern, I worked in a newsroom where all the office activity was videotaped. Everything I did in concern with my job was live on the radio or on TV. I know some police officers say it would be a violation of their privacy, but what about pilots? Where, again, they're entrusted with public safety. Everything they do and say is recorded throughout their shift. Why should somebody in charge of public safety be any different?
Many people are actually recorded all the time while at work. If you have a restaurant staff, there's cameras, there's fisheye cameras right over top of the tills for obvious reasons. There are people like you, when I was in broadcasting for years, not only when we were on the air, but there was a fish cam up in the corner, even when the mics were off. So it would always be going. And frankly, that was open on the website. People could tune in to the radio, so to speak, and watch you in the booth, like sip your tea and clear your throat and get ready to go back on the air, like for 4 hours straight. And we're not the only ones. There's lots of people who are constantly on mic and on camera, including our legislators. Folks who are in committee are on camera all the time. Folks who are in the House of Commons for those marathon sessions, sometimes hours long. That's all on camera. That's all on mic. Lots of people always have this. And I think, speaking from a privacy perspective, so long as it was going back to headquarters and just being recorded there, and this wasn't part of some, live streaming TV show, don't really see where the privacy thing enters there.
Kris, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you for caring about BC.
Kris, is there a website people can go to if they have any concerns or want to contact you?
Absolutely, and I really want to stress we encourage all folks to go to our website, especially if you're looking for help on how to reach those in power. No matter what it is, people who are elected, they're there to represent you. You are their boss. And so we have a lot of information there on how to firmly, but politely and effectively reach them. So go to our website, taxpayer.com, and from there you can find out ways to write a letter, start a petition, or even make a very good phone call.
Kris, thank you so much.
Thank you.
My guest has been Kris Sims, BC Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Again, her website, taxpayer.com. If you have any questions for Kris or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of Howe Street Media Incorporated.